We were doing an American tour started in the did it start in the yeah, it started at the beginning of January, and we happened to be doing the Highline Ballroom in New York on David's birthday. And we got to the gig and there was a lot of rumours that we think David's going to come down because it wasn't far from where he lived to do some singing. That's what we heard, and we didn't know anything about that, so we were like, yeah, maybe, you know. And then during the concert, Tony phoned him up on his mobile and he answered, and we played a really horrible karaoke version of Happy Birthday and got the audience to sing Happy Birthday while we held the phone up. And he said, oh, that was really nice, you know. Ask them what they think to Black Star, which had just come out that day. And the audience went wild. He said, oh, that was, say thank you. He said, thanks for phoning us up and catch you later. So for us, that was the start of the tour, and it was a real high point to kick off in America. And then we were in Toronto in Canada 2 days later, and we got a call at 5 in the morning saying David's just passed away. And it was like, it was surreal. It was 5 in the morning, so you're going, am I hearing this right? It just went into a very surreal moment. And we all got up, basically, went for a coffee and said, what we're going to do, we've got another 12 concerts to do. Out of respect, do we pull them all, you know? And Tony said, well, you know, David worked right up to the end, you know? He said, I didn't know he was that ill, but so he covered it up. And I remembered, you know, even on the Ziggy tours, there'd be times when he wouldn't eat properly, and there was a lot of hard work, and he would get bad flu. So, you know, on the day of a concert, you'd say, what we're going to do? He can hardly talk, let alone sing. Do we stop the concert? And he'd say, no, I'm doing it. He refused to cancel any concerts. And he would go on, and he would pull it off. He would do it, and you wouldn't know. And then afterwards, he would kind of collapse, you know. So we went, well, he always had that attitude, the show must go on. So we went, okay, that's what we'll do. We'll adopt his viewpoint and carry on. And it was quite different playing those songs the next night. You know, you had like 10 rows of Kleenex tissues and people crying, and it was like, oh, this is going to be horrible, you know. So I just swore at the audience, basically, said, look, this is not a funeral. He would have wanted you to have a good night, so enjoy it. And we did that every night, and it was amazing, you know. We met so many people. We did like meet and greets every night, so we met like 300 or 400 people a night, and the stories were incredible. They were thankful that we'd done the music. They said that was the best thing to get him through the news that he'd passed away. And it was interesting that it was like they'd all lost a family member. It wasn't just an artist that they happened to be into. He was almost a member of the family, part of the life. That's what the grief really was, you know. I think it's hard to sum up. It's hard to sum up in he's that, because he's not. You know, even if you just took music, you know, he liked soul music, he liked funk music, he liked electronic stuff when that came out, whereas most people tend to stay in a bag or a genre. He wasn't like that. He liked to go dancing, so when we went to clubs, he would dance to like Tamla Motown stuff, and he genuinely loved that music, you know. We didn't really know that at the time, that he would go on to, you know, do soul kind of stuff. Clothes-wise, he was always very into fashion. He liked Monty Python and that kind of stuff, so we always had those kind of jokes going around. Just many facets of him. So he's hard to pin down, I think, because he was interested in a lot of things, and the whole all that was focused towards being an entertainer, being a songwriter, being a rock and roll star, if you like. So he used all that. I mean, you know, he'd done mime before we joined him. He'd done acting. He was into clothes. So, and he was looking at should I have done musicals. So he hadn't quite taken the talents he'd got, because he could have been a mime artist for the rest of his life probably, or got into acting, or just being a songwriter for other people. So he hadn't quite taken everything on and gone, okay, I'll do it all. And through the tours that, you know, you'd be doing a gig and he would just go into a section of mime that you hadn't seen before, and you were like, whoa, where did that come from, you know? So it was all that stuff was there. You know, sometimes you'd be sitting in Haddon Hall and there'd be so many artists coming through, from Mark Bolan to Arthur Brown to Roy Harper, just on a daily basis. I remember watching him one day talking to an Australian guy, I can't remember who it was, and the conversation had just started and David was talking in an Australian accent, but spot on accent. And I thought, he's going to get smacked. Because do you know what I mean? I thought, the guy must know he's doing that, but nothing. He carried it on all the way through. And I noticed it when he was with us. He'd have a Yorkshire accent. And it was like, whoa, you know, but he didn't go, I'm taking the mickey out of you. That's how he spoke when he was with you, you know.